My name is Isabel Clarkson and I am 40 years old. My family is the head of a flower arrangement industry that has been in existence for generations. I am on the path of flower arranging, which is considered a wicked art in the flower arrangement world. My husband Steve became a part of our family and he is also my manager. After fertility treatments and 1 miscarriage, I am now 3 months pregnant. There is also the issue of an heir, and this time we must take good care of him. On this particular day, Steve and I had a trip planned with my mother and father. However, Steve had a sudden business trip and the trip was cancelled. So my mother and I decided to go to a department store together to look at baby products. That back figure. It is indeed Steve. He is holding hands with his mistress Rebecca and pushing a stroller. I'm on Steve's back. I'm 3 months pregnant and you have a baby? You think I don't know what's going on? I tapped my husband on the shoulder and whispered in his ear. As a result, Steve turned around as if he was ready. It's been a while, Rebecca. I knew Steve and Rebecca were together very well. She and I met in OBGYN and became good friends. 2 years ago, after 2 years of fertility treatments, I became pregnant. Rebecca was also at the OBGYN I was going to at the time. Although we were far apart in age, we hit it off and exchanged contact information. We talked about our fears and hopes for each other's first birth. Before long, she and I became family friends. Me and Steve, Rebecca and her boyfriend Michael. It may be a strange picture, because Rebecca and I were so far apart in age that it would not be surprising if we were mother and daughter. At that time, Rebecca called Michael Jonesy after his last name. When I asked her carefully, she told me that she and Michael were not married. But she said that the child in her belly is Michael's child. Rebecca said with a twinkle in her eye that she would get married when the time was right. It made me smile to think that she loves Michael. Sometimes the 4 of us would go out to eat together, and sometimes we would go to the department store to look at baby products. We talked so much about what we would do after the birth of our child that we lost track of time. But I had a miscarriage. It was hopeless. After that, it became hard for me to see Rebecca pregnant, so I stopped seeing her. This was the end of my connection with Rebecca, but this was the beginning of Steve's connection with her. I was completely caught off guard, but Rebecca was a beautiful young beauty. The child in the stroller reminds me of my lost child, the one I was carrying in my belly at the time. Oh, you knew about us? I knew long ago. Because you were plainly cheating on me. I wasn't cheating on you. Are you serious? At least I am. Hey Steve. What do you mean Isabel is 3 months pregnant? I haven't heard anything. Rebecca asked this to both Steve and me. Had he not told her that I was pregnant? Steve, you said that you and Isabel are over, that you didn't even have sex. So why is she pregnant? No. So, Isabel's case is different from most families. She has to give birth to an heir. That's the only reason I was assigned to her. Steve and I are not romantically married. He used to be a caregiver, and he was the one who took care of my grandfather. My grandmother was so impressed by his dedication that she decided to make him my marriage partner. I was 36 years old at the time. Certainly not an early age to get married. Numbed by my reluctance to marry, my grandmother brought me and Steve together in a sort of arranged marriage. I wasn't dating anyone at the time, and I guess my grandmother's strong push was too much for me, but before I knew it, I was married to him. Steve is 4 years younger than me. I guess he thought he would be better off in my family, which has been the head of flower arrangement industry for generations, than in a cheap nursing job. He married me as our son-in-law. His job title is my manager, but I think it is an easy job. It's managing my schedule, answering phone calls for requests. He takes care of my schedule, calls me with requests, and takes on other jobs. Even today's business trip was to discuss a project I'm teaching flower arranging. But that was a lie so that he could meet with Rebecca. Thinking back, he often went on business trips saying he was going to get my job. That was a blatant lie. He was leaving the house for various reasons in order to have time with Rebecca. There was no way I could overlook such an obvious affair. And the fact that it was with Rebecca was the most disgusting part. Steve and I are going through fertility treatments, so we're going to have a baby this time through in vitro fertilization. Really? You want to go that far to have a child? Well, it's my destiny. You wouldn't understand, but I have something I have to carry. How long have you known about Steve and I? Ever since I had my miscarriage and we stopped interacting, Steve started acting strange. He was using his phone a lot and traveling a lot more and going out for no reason. And that's when Michael contacted me and told me that you were dating. Michael dumped me, so he told you out of spite. From the time the four of us were getting together, Rebecca and Michael were constantly fighting. Basically, it was all about Michael's cheating and spending habits. Both Rebecca and Michael were 21 years old at the time. They were still young and wanted to have fun. Rebecca was limited in what she could do because of her pregnancy, and I felt sorry for Michael's unacceptable behavior. I was also concerned. Rebecca and Michael would not last long. But Rebecca decided to have Michael's child. I can respect that, but the important thing is what happens after the birth. Rebecca said she couldn't rely on her parents, and honestly, she didn't think Michael would be able to support her in raising a child. I think that's where she turned to Steve, who was present just the right amount of time. You had this kind of relationship after talking to Steve about Michael, didn't you? You said you were unsure about having the baby on your own, right? Does that mean Steve couldn't leave you alone like that? But what do you think you would be called? They call you a mistress. No matter what your excuse is, if you have a relationship with a married man, it's cheating, and if you keep it up, you're a mistress. Even when you were pregnant, Steve came through for me and my son. He came all out and said he was going to buy my son a tricycle. Now you know which one of us is more cherished. So that means Steve is going to divorce me and be with her. That's right. If he responded that way, I would really have no choice but to divorce him. When I found out about Steve and Rebecca's relationship, I was shocked. Steve was mature and serious, not the type to cheat on me in any way. Since I work in the public eye, he is inevitably the one who supports me in the shadows. Still, he was devoted and supportive. After a year of marriage, my grandmother started talking about children. Considering my age, she took the liberty of booking a hospital appointment, saying that we should have fertility treatment. I thought I could conceive naturally, but my grandmother was adamant that there was a time limit. 1 year after the infertility treatment, we finally had a child. The infertility treatment was hard. After 2 attempts at artificial insemination failed, we finally got pregnant through in vitro fertilization. I knew I had to take good care of it, and the ultrasound photos were enough to make me feel maternal. Steve has no idea of the emotional and physical damage infertility treatment can do. As proof, he never went with me to the OB/GYN. And yet, with my first pregnancy, I miscarried in the 4th month. Then, after a short period of time, we went back to fertility treatment. Last time, I had a baby within a year, so I thought it would be okay this time, too. But the second time, there were no signs, and I felt like giving up many times. I even thought that I might as well give up on having children. But I was born into this kind of family, and it was my destiny. I tried my best to get fertility treatment again, and we finally found out that we were pregnant. For once, everyone around me took care of me, and the whole family worked together to protect my baby. So you care more about somebody's child than you do about your own child. This boy is mine. I don't care about blood ties. He calls me daddy, you know. He's so cute and adorable, I'd do anything for him. Even if you says he's my illegitimate child, I'm willing to admit it. That's how much Rebecca and this boy need me. You're going to be okay. You're at home with your grandfather, grandmother, father, and mother. You can afford a babysitter. But Rebecca's all alone with her. Steve was completely on Rebecca's side. Steve has been my manager for the last 4 years, and he doesn't understand my work or anything. I am lonely on stage. My family has been a prosperous flower arrangement family for generations. My father and mother now take over. However, while respecting the tradition of flower arrangement, I established a new genre which some say is an evil way, in the hope that people will be able to experience flowers more easily. For a time, my whole family criticized me, and I was criticized a lot too. I was ostensibly in a fighting stance, but in fact I was lonely, with no one on my side. Steve didn't even lean on me like that, and he just did his job as a manager without a care in the world. Even though we are husband and wife and support each other in business, he and I were not deeply involved at all. You basically treated Steve like a slave, didn't you? There was no place for Steve. That's why he came to me. He said he felt at ease with me. He said it helped him heal. Don't you realize that's what people always say to their mistresses? It's no wonder he has a hard job. He was paid well for what he did. He could have made a good living, but isn't that being too greedy? Yes, I was paid more than a salaried worker of the same age, but that's not the point. I was the son-in-law, and my spirit didn't rest 24 hours a day, even at home. I didn't know anything about flower arrangement or anything like that. I was strangely liked, so I was adopted as a son-in-law, and I had to live in a completely away-from-home environment, killing my breath. So where did the money for Rebecca come from? Well, I did what I could for her out of my salary. You were embezzling from the operation of my flower arranging class. I don't understand why you would do something that would be so easy to find out. The way they do things is too blatant. You don't use your head, that's why you cheat in such a seamless manner. You knew that, didn't you, Rebecca? You knew he had done something wrong and brought the money with him. I don't know. I didn't ask questions because he would just give it to me without telling me. When I was suffering from morning sickness, you didn't say a word of sympathy because you cared more about the child of the woman you were cheating on your wife with? Pregnancy is not something a woman can do alone, and men are like strangers to it. You don't seem to get it, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say it. I'm not cheating on you. I'm serious about her. When he says it so clearly, I am at a loss for words to return. Although I knew about Steve and Rebecca's relationship, I had turned a blind eye to it for many years. That's because I hoped he will one day change his mind, break up with Rebecca, and apologize to me. To give out my own true feelings, I don't care if I leave him or not. My life is fine without him. But I have a hard time letting my unborn child be without a father. That is one point, and the other is that no one in my family tree has ever been divorced. It was painful for me to have the stain of divorce on my generation because of my family background. But being with someone you have no love for will surely fail at some point. Sooner or later, that's the only difference. At this point, I am willing to divorce him once and for all. But there are many things I want to say. Let's get everything out of the way. Our marriage was like an arranged marriage, and you may have really disliked older people like me. But I married you because I thought I could do it with you, because you seemed sincere and kind. But I began to realize early on that you were actually the coldest-hearted person I had ever met. You didn't understand anything about fertility treatment, and you didn't accompany me to the hospital even once. The tone was that I had a miscarriage and you were having an affair with Rebecca. If I hadn't miscarried, you wouldn't have cheated on me? If I hadn't miscarried, it would have grown up to be as big as the baby in this stroller. I could not share the sadness of the miscarriage with you. You started going out with her and acts like a father. You didn't understand the weight of one life, so you could have an affair with her. I've fulfilled my responsibility. You're pregnant now, so you're going to have an heir, right? My responsibility is to produce an heir. That's all. I don't care how much weight life has, it's too much for me. I have to be a father to my child, and educate him to become a flower arranger. At the same time, I need to recognize your flower arrangement. You have to set me free now. Steve was too childish and lukewarm for me, who was born in the family of a flower arrangement master, learned and pushed forward in the way of flower arrangement. I know that he was a son-in-law, and I know that I gave him a narrow shoulder to lean on. But I can't help but wonder if he had any good memories at all. Being able to live in a fairly large mansion and having his own car. That he travels abroad 4 times a year, and that he can get into classy restaurants with a face pass. I'm sorry if that was getting in the way of Steve being Steve. Let me ask Rebecca, would you have continued the mistress relationship if he didn't have the money? Rebecca thought about it for a moment. I don't think she's smart, but maybe she was smart enough to avoid answering immediately. Maybe not. Steve's color changed. It was the first time she had said it clearly. Steve and Rebecca's true relationship was exposed. What do you mean? Rebecca. Just because it's in front of Isabel doesn't mean you have to be talked down to. Because it's like me and Jonesy broke up because he didn't have any money. So in other words, you're saying that you and Steve hooked up because he had money. So Steve was just a stand-in for Michael, right? No, that's not true. Rebecca, don't say something that could be misinterpreted. I don't know what would have happened to Rebecca and our son if I hadn't been there. Michael is a jerk who cheats on his wife and goes to gamble every day, but I'm the opposite of Michael, right? You thought I was better than him like that, right, Rebecca? Steve started to get impatient. He really thought he had been chosen by Rebecca based solely on his personality and character until I pointed out that he was not. It's a whole lot more obvious to those around me that he is simply being treated like a bank, and indeed, at 36 years old, this is painful. No, he is a sucker for young, beautiful women. What makes you think that an old man like Steve can be serious about dating Rebecca, who is in her early 20s? In a nutshell, what makes you so attractive to Rebecca other than the fact that you have money? Where does that confidence come from? Well, you know, Rebecca and I are more than years apart, but she says she can count on me for that. Rebecca says I'll be a good father. And she's not lying, is she, Rebecca? I don't ask him that and make him believe it desperately, he may not have the mental capacity for it. I was fed up with his mental weakness even when he was always following me to work as my manager. Because there were no decent adults around. Jonesy wouldn't even register with me, and he wasn't particularly happy about having a child. I think he showed his bright and unique side in front of Steve and Isabel. But Jonesy is basically a nice face on the outside. Behind the scenes, he was a changed man. I lived in fear that I would be thrown out at any moment. That's when I met Isabel, who I would never have a relationship with in my life, and we became a family affair. I felt like I had become a woman of a higher rank, and while I enjoyed the company of the four of us, when I went home and was alone with Jonesy, I instantly felt insecure. I would text Steve about these feelings, and that's how we grew closer. I had no one else to turn to, no one else to talk to. So I turned to Steve for emotional support. That's not enough to fill me up. No, it doesn't fill me up. I can't say I wasn't after Steve's money. That doesn't mean I can't say she was Steve's mistress. I'm going to respond accordingly. Don't think that no matter how many words Rebecca piles on, no matter how many excuses Steve makes, it will be forgiven. Steve seemed quite shocked to hear Rebecca's true feelings. He had selfishly thought that he was the one who she aimed mentally and also the one with whom she would think about the future. To begin with, do you really think that a young woman of 23 years of age, still with a nice complexion, would seriously consider a middle-aged man as a potential partner? Rebecca is visually stunning and has a style that makes it hard to believe that she had a child. I think even Steve was consulting with her because of her visual appearance. You can't say that he doesn't have a skeptical mind that something might happen. In fact, wouldn't any man think so? Steve would be embarrassed to be so realized. He is probably telling himself that he and Rebecca are not different in age, that he is not addicted to her beauty, but that they have a deeper spiritual resonance with each other. So what does Rebecca want to do with Steve down the road? What if Michael shows up again? Now that you've been exposed so far, tell me how you really feel. Well, actually, Jonesy has been in touch with me lately. Steve was clearly upset. Steve has been living a double life with Rebecca for most of his married life with me, not knowing that I had found out. Surely he would have made an effort to be the father of a child sleeping peacefully in a stroller. He would have tried to maintain both families by making up excuses and lying to me and to Rebecca. Steve's greatest fear in that life was not that I would find out. It was to get back together with Michael, the child's real father. Jonesy, he's working seriously now. He's working in auto maintenance. I couldn't imagine the Jonesy I knew before. He was such a piece of shit that he couldn't even last a week at his job, and now he has a full-time job. That job lasted a year, too, and he said he's coming to pick me and my son up. What? I hope he doesn't come out here and act like a father now. I'm paying for everything the kid wears and what he eats. For the past year and a half, I've let the kid play at the park, bathed him, and I'm his father. I almost laugh because he is so pissed off. I know he loves Rebecca's son. But don't expect anything in return there. Parenting is not about you being the star anymore. It's about you being the supporting actor. I'm sure you had a good life without any inconvenience. If anything, I think they were better off than most families. That's the money you embezzled, isn't it? You haven't divorced me in the first place, and you haven't remarried Rebecca, but you're trying so hard to appeal to me as a father. It's too painful. Even today, I came here to buy a tricycle for the kid. I lied and came to Rebecca's place because she said she was only available today. I didn't expect you to run into me. You're not so much bad luck as you are a constant negative aura. It makes me feel uncomfortable when I'm with you. Am I exaggerating a bit? But really, at home he has a muted presence, yet he often can't read the air. And because of that, he makes a lot of mistakes. Since it was an unusual career change from a nursing job, at first I was more than willing to accept that mistakes were inevitable. Even so, he was always making ordinary mistakes and leaving out important details, and to be honest, he was not a good worker. That's the kind of thing Isabel is not afraid to say. Do you always look down on me and think how great you are? If so, you'll divorce me, won't you? I'm more at home in Rebecca's studio apartment than in that mansion with the garden and pool. I don't mind lying around eating snacks. I don't care if we eat at different times. I don't care if I'm lazily watching TV or on my phone. I can be at ease at Rebecca's house like that. I've had enough of that. I'm never going back to that prison-like house. But that's only if Rebecca needs you, since you don't have any money. Are you okay with that? You will lose your job at the same time. In exchange, I won't tell my baby that you're the father for the rest of my life. Even if you want to see us later, I won't let you. I have this baby, and that's enough. I have no feelings for your baby. It's a relief to be able to leave that house. The only thing I'm worried about is that you won't be in trouble in the future. Do you think the business will go smoothly without me? If I can't take over the connections and clients I've built up over the past 4 years, you won't be able to do my job. Don't underestimate me too much. Who do you think I am? I can't call myself a flower arrangement artist, but I am the Emoto of 3,000 students nationwide. I can replace you in any number of ways. Maybe our meeting today is a sign of some kind. Let's get a divorce once and for all. With these words, I left Steve and Rebecca. I heard what they had been up to since then. This was a report from a disciple who had been with Steve for a long time. Steve was elated that now that he and I were divorced, he could finally live with Rebecca in a dignified manner. With the divorce papers filed, he went to her apartment in high spirits. Inside, he found Michael. What do you mean? Oh, Steve. You've come to the right place. He proposed to me, he found us a new place to live, and now we're getting ready to move in. What? He proposed? A new house? Thank you for being a father figure to my son all this time. I finally got to come and pick up Rebecca and my son too. I wanted to come pick them up sooner, but I knew I had to keep working, so I set a goal to go visit Rebecca and my son if it lasts a year. I really appreciate everything you've done for me. Jonesy has changed my mind so much, and it's all because of my son. Jonesy said he looked at his son's picture every day to inspire himself. When he saw Jonasy's face, he was in a good mood and laughed a lot. It's amazing how a parent-child relationship works, isn't it? You can tell. Rebecca, will you always call me Jonesy? You have already changed your name to Rebecca Jones. That's right. Ha ha ha. Well, that's not true. I was going to marry Rebecca until I divorced Isabel. So why are you getting back together with Michael after all this time? What? Why am I supposed to marry you after all this time? I never once asked you to marry me or father my children. You didn't have to put it into words, that's the vibe I got from you. Wow, your true nature is like this. Scary, scary. Screw you. You screwed me over. You made me spend all that money. then you're going to have to pay for it. Steve, don't get excited. If you're going to act like that towards Rebecca, I'm not going to shut up about it either. Hey, what? Oh, you're threatening me? Steve, you should realize that you've lost the most important person in your life. For me, Rebecca and you, my son, are the most important? Isn't the child in Isabel's belly important to you? Steve was apparently at a loss for words. Not an immediate answer because it's not important? Is it because he really does care but he can't go back? I've learned a lot when I've been away from my son, too. But it's my own child, you know? If you don't have respect for your own child and the woman who gave birth to him, he won't like you. Yo, mind your own business. I'm sorry. The moving truck is coming now. I wish I could have seen the look on Steve's face at this point. This must have been quite a traumatic event for him. In the end, Steve was just used by Rebecca for good. He's a moneyless guy, and he's off the hook. He got a good feeling, flirted with a beautiful woman 13 years younger than him, and even committed a crime to pay for it. I don't ask for money from someone I really like. And a woman in her early 20s would not date a man more than a year older than her unless he has something to offer other than money. This is a sweet trap that serious men like him who have never played around with the world can easily fall into. I was destined to inherit the family, so I could not live my life the way I wanted to. So my marriage to him was also a decision I made if my grandmother had insisted on it. Even so, since we had become husband and wife by fate, I wanted to live more closely with him. But I would be a strong mother for my unborn child. Later, Steve changed from his luxurious life and joined a dormitory for manual laborers, doing the heavy lifting anyway. He is surrounded by young people, and he works while crying, being yelled at and scolded by the masters and seniors who are younger than he is. A full refund of the money owed for my flower arrangement class. A relentless demand for alimony from me. He had borrowed money from the town money as well, not enough to pay for the garnishments on my property. To repay them, he had to work desperately no matter what the circumstances. Because I, too, worked desperately to earn this precious money. I had a lot of trouble establishing flower arrangements instead of my legitimate flower arrangement. I started flower arranging because I wanted people to enjoy flower arrangement more frankly. My father was very opposed and even obstructed me, especially when I was from a different school. But I kept on doing it without breaking and without wavering. The other day, I was entrusted with decorating a large event. The response was so positive that I was interviewed by magazines and television. My father recognized me for the first time. What did you think of this story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.